Welcome back to the Laker News Network. Today is June 1st, 1830, and I'm Yasmin Glazier.
And I'm Lily Miller. The government just passed the Indian Removal Act on May 28th. We now have 25 million more acres of land.
This act is to remove all Native Americans from the east side of the United States to the west coast. It was passed by Andrew Jackson. 5 southeastern tribes have now moved west of the Mississippi River.
Indians are dying from extreme weather conditions. Let's see what our interviewer, Alexis Barron, is up to now.
Today I'm here with John G. Burnett, and we're later to be meeting with Erica Belden on the road to the west for these Native Americans. What are you doing here, John?
Making sure the Native Americans do not go back into their homes.
Thank you. This would be due to the new act passed by Congress, the Indian Removal Act. This allows the president to remove all Eastern Native Americans and take them to the west. Mr. Burnett, what do you think of this new act?
I think this act was passed for a good reason because us whites don't want them in our land. We want to make sure that it can become civilized.
Thank you. And now I'm here with Erica Belden, a Native American from the East. Erica, what do you think about this new act just passed a few days ago?
I feel very offended and I do not like this act one bit. My children are being harmed. My family is being killed and separated because they think this is a justified act when it is the complete opposite.
About 1,000 Native Americans have already died on this forced march, and about 1/4 of all Native Americans are already at their end locations. People are now calling this journey the Trail of Tears.
I want my land back. My whole life has been taken from me. I have to move to the west every day, and every day I see so many die, all because of some cotton and gold. I hate Andrew Jackson.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Alexis Barron.
By the looks of the current events, things are only going to get worse for the Indians.
Thank you for watching Laker News Network. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm your news anchor, Martha Rose, and welcome to the Laker News Network. Today is July 19th, 1848. We have breaking news from the Seneca Falls Convention. The Seneca Falls Convention is the first ever women's rights convention. Women from all over have come together to discuss social, civil, and religious rights for women. 5 wonderful ladies put this all together. They are Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Lucretia Mott, Mary McClintock, Martha Coffin Wright, and Jane Hunt. Over 300 women have come to attend the first day of the convention. More and more women in the U.S. have begun speaking out about moral and political issues. We'll take this over to our reporter, Mary Stewart, who is live at the Wesleyan Chapel now with one of the main leaders, Elizabeth Cady Stanton.
Thank you, Martha. We're here with Elizabeth Cady Stanton, the main leader of the Seneca Falls Convention. Good afternoon, Elizabeth. We have a few questions we would like to ask you. What is the purpose of your speech?
Thank you for having me, Mary. The idea I was trying to get across was to get people's attention about women's demands and to get people to fight for women's equality as U.S. citizens.
What motivated you to organize this event?
I was really frustrated with staying at home and raising kids when I could be out working, so I asked a few of my friends to get together and set up this convention.
Thank you so much for this, Elizabeth. This is Mary Stewart signing off. Back to you, Martha.
Thank you, Mary. We'll be back tomorrow with more news on this historical convention. This was Martha Rose from Laker News. Thank you and good night. It's now day 2 of the Seneca Falls Convention, July 20th, 1848. We're going live with Mary, who is with Lucretia Mott.
Thank you, Martha. I'm here with Lucretia Mott, another leader of the convention. Lucretia, I have some questions to ask you. Do you have any experiences that have helped you for this today?
Good afternoon, Mary. A few years back, a few friends and I organized a female anti-slavery society. We brought awareness to the equal rights of slaves.
How have people reacted to this convention?
Well, we've had a pretty positive report from the people. Today we've had the convention open to men, which has brought more people together. Everyone here has had the same idea to get women equal rights.
Thank you so much, Lucretia. That's all for the Seneca Falls Convention. Now back to Martha to sign off.
This has been a wonderful and significant past 2 days. Thank you all for tuning in. Good night.
Hi, my name is Shelby Voldemort, and welcome to the Lakers News Network. Today's date is May 10, 1852. This just in, a new book has been published and reported as a response to the Second Fugitive Slave Act. This book caused a revelation in the North and an outrage in the South. Reporting live from Brunswick, Maine, here's Russell Stick.
Reporting live from Brunswick, Maine, I am Russell Stick, and today I'm joined with Harriet Beatrice Doe. So Harriet, what inspired you to write your book, Uncle Tom's Cabin?
Well, I've seen a difference between African American treatment in the South and in the North, and I wanted the North to actually understand how bad slavery was in the South. I also really wanted to accelerate the abolishment of slavery.
Very interesting. So what do you wish society was like, and how do you plan on having an impact?
I wish everybody was seen the same, no matter their skin color. I also plan on writing and marching for what I believe in the future.
That is amazing. Now, when you wrote your book, did you think that 300,000 copies of it would have been sold?
I'm actually very surprised by the numbers so far, and I'm very proud.
You should be. Now, we will be right back.
Thanks, Russell. Great intake on Harriet's point of view. Now the real question is, why did Harriet become an abolitionist in the first place? Back to you.
Thank you so much, Shelby. She makes a great point. What did make you become an abolitionist in the first place?
I really wanted to clarify the harsh reality of slavery in an artistic way to inspire many to join me in an anti-slavery movement. The difference between African American treatment in the North and in the South is disgusting, and something needed to be changed. If no one was going to step up, I will.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks.
Thanks, Russell. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in today, May 10th, 1852. It was nice to get Harriet's point of view, considering all the outrage it's caused in the North and South. Signing out, I'm Shelby Voldemort, and you just watched the latest Lakers News Network.
Good evening, I'm Charlotte Millman from Laker News Network. Today is April 18th, 1861. On to updates from the Battle of Fort Sumter. As you know, it started when Lincoln was reinforcing the base in South Carolina. General Beauregard attacked from the water, and it lasted for 3.5 days until General Anderson of the United States Army surrendered the fort. Over to Katie in a local hospital.
Thanks, Charlotte. As you can see, I'm here in a local hospital where some of the troops are being treated. In the short battle, there were no casualties, but there were some injured. I'm here with Roberta Callahan as she tells us her experience. Tell us about your experience in this battle.
Well, when it first took place, I was still sleeping along with other troops because it happened at 4:30 in the morning. And so we all kind of got out of bed to see what was going on.
So, where did the attack happen? Did it happen through the water, in the fields?
The attack started in the ships, and then they started coming in towards the west.
So they came from the water?
Yes.
That's good to know. How long did this exchange last?
It lasted for about 3.5 days, but it felt like forever. And our chief says that this might lead into something really major.
Like, are you talking about a war?
Yes.
How long do you think that would last?
Well, from the damage that's already been done, maybe about 4 years.
When would it end?
April 1865.
That is just terrifying. Now back to Charlotte with some footage.
Behind me are some pictures from the battle. Tune in tomorrow on this channel, 13152, for more daily news
breaking news. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Laker News Network. My name is Elizabeth Baldwin. Today is January 1st, 1863. We have exciting news today. President Lincoln has issued the Emancipation Proclamation. This proclamation has finally given slaves in the rebellious southern states freedom as we approach the third year of the Civil War. While Lincoln is on the side of freedom, people are still being held as slaves in the South. And even though slaves are free in the seceded states, it is still considered legal to keep slaves in the loyal Union states. While this proclamation has not yet ended slavery altogether, it has changed the goal of the Civil War to ending slavery. Now, we go live to Juliana at the White House. Juliana?
Thanks, Elizabeth. This is Juliana, right in front of the White House. Today, January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln released the Emancipation Proclamation, even though it was signed back on September 22nd, 1862. Let's catch one of the civilians now. Oh, excuse me, ma'am. Hi, I'm from Laker News, and we were wondering what people thought of the Emancipation Proclamation. What do you think?
Hi, yes. My name is Nicole. I have been fighting for this forever. My family and I have been protesting for a long time against slavery. My kids have even started a club at school.
How great! What do you think of the South and how they're acting with all of this?
I think it's just terrible that the South will not let the slaves be free. I know they want to be their own country, but they're not. So while they're a part of the Union, they need to follow the laws. I hate the thought of my family being able to live our lives while the poor people in the South have to know that the president is on their side and they're still being held against their will.
Thank you so much for your time, Nicole. Back to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Juliana, and thank you for joining us on our Laker News Network tonight. Stand by for updates. We will report them as they come in. Bye-bye.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Laker News Network. Tonight is November 19th, 1863, and we are covering the sad events that unfolded in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania 4 months ago in the brand new address by President Abraham Lincoln. In a bloody conflict 4 months ago, 1/3 of the Confederate Army lost their lives when Robert E. Lee led a charge at the Union Army, resulting in a horrific catastrophe. It was one of the bloodiest days in American history. There was an estimated 23,000 casualties. Analysts expect this to be a turning point in the war. Mr. Danello is on the scene now.
Hello, I'm standing here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, where the horrific events have unfolded 4 months ago. As you mentioned, many American men lost their lives as the Confederate Army and the Union Army duked it out. I am standing here next to President Lincoln as he is about to deliver the Gettysburg Address before his impromptu pre-speech the night before.
7 years ago, our fathers brought forth this a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. A civil war has erupted and is testing America's endurance. A field of war half dedicated to those fallen and alive. As all together we shall do this. The brave men, both fallen and alive, we are proud of. The world will remember this day. We will learn from this day. We will remember those fallen, and we should, for their great prize in this nation. Under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government and its people shall not perish from earth.
There we have it. President Lincoln has decided to dedicate a whole cemetery to those who have fallen in war. As we speak, the Confederate Army has retreated, and the Union Army has won. Back to you, Mr. Ward.
This is truly a test of our country's integrity. We here at the Laker News Network hope this war will end very soon. This is a dangerous time we are living in, and this day, November 19th, 1863, will be remembered forever. This is Aiden Ward, signing off.
Hello and welcome to Laker News Network. I'm Alex. There is breaking news tonight, November 19, 1863, exactly 4.5 months after the Battle of Gettysburg. President Lincoln has just given a breathtaking speech at the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The speech referred to the Battle of Gettysburg that occurred July 1, 1863 to July 3, 1863. Many soldiers have died in the battle fighting for the Union and will be honored today with Lincoln's speech. The The crowds have piled up to represent their friends and family. There are thousands of people who came to listen to the speech. His speech is so significant that rumor states it will be one of the best speeches in American history. Meet our reporter Doris, who is reporting on the scene.
Thanks, Alex. I'm here today with Betty at the Memorial in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, to give us some insight on the Battle of Gettysburg and the Gettysburg Address. So, where were you when the battle first started?
Well, about 4 months ago, I was walking past my home and I saw the battle. So I decided to see what was happening and what it was like. But I quickly learned what war was really like. The fighting was horrific and many people died. I quickly left and returned back home.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry to hear that. So, how were you feeling when you first started to hear the shots fired?
I was scared, but mostly shocked, really. I knew I shouldn't have been there, and I really learned what war was really like.
So, Lincoln in his speech quoted the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal, and government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. What do you think he meant by this?
I think he meant that since all men are created equal, none of them should be slaves. Our founding fathers wrote that in the Declaration of Independence to gain their freedom from Britain. So I think he's trying to help people understand that the slaves also deserve their freedom. And then for the second thing Lincoln said, I think he trying to point out to the Confederate States that they should rejoin because otherwise our government could collapse and we could end up with a king again.
Oh, I completely agree. Thank you for your comments on this matter, and now we will move on to another eyewitness account by a very brave soldier. Thank you. Hi, Alfred.
Hello. I was in the Battle of Gettysburg and I got to see Lincoln's speech in person.
So, Alfred, can you tell me some of your thoughts on Lincoln's speech after being in the war yourself?
Well, I think I can speak for millions when I say that Lincoln embodied the war perfectly. The battle was some of the toughest days of my life, and many of my companions died fighting for the Union. So even though I'm devastated that they are gone, I'm glad that we stopped General Robert E. Lee from invading the North for a second time. Overall, I'm glad Lincoln wants change as much as we do.
Good, good. So, wow, what was your job when you were fighting? Were you like holding the guns or were you firing the cannons?
Well, I was hiding in a trench when the war began. I was told to shoot and kill as quickly and efficiently as I could. I was almost shot several times, and it was very terrifying.
So, Alfred, can you please tell us how the battle even happened? Why was it going on? What was happening?
All I know is that the Confederates needed shoes for their soldiers, and they heard that Gettysburg had shoes. So, luckily we stopped them from invading, and best of all, we used the shoes.
Wow, that's really fascinating. Well, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I hope you have a great day. Well, that's that, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. That's the news feed. Now back to you, Alex.
Wow, that is very interesting and informative. I would like to thank our eyewitnesses and of course Doris. We will give an update on the aftermath of the speech tomorrow night at 6. Stay tuned and good night.
Good evening. This is the Laker News Network. I'm Cal Anna.
And I'm Kate Lamphere.
Tonight we bring you breaking news from Appomattox Courthouse on April 9th, 1865.
This is a day that will go down in history as the day that Robert E. Lee of the Confederate Army has surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant of the Union Army.
After a strong start to this 4-year-long conflict, The Confederate Army was defeated at the Battle of Gettysburg, the turning point of the war.
That's right, Cal. After the battle, the Confederate Army was grounded to a standstill, and USS Grant took advantage of the weakened Confederate force and started to push back into Confederate territory. And William Sherman started his march to the sea using total war to blow through the Deep South.
The surrender of the South raises a lot of questions, like will the South be punished? What will happen to the Confederate leaders after this crushing defeat? And most importantly, what will happen to the slaves? We now go live to Wyatt Langford for a live interview with Robert E. Lee.
Thanks, Cal. We're here at Appomattox Courthouse with General Robert E. Lee, who has just recently been pardoned by the Union Army. Hello, Robert. What do you have to say after losing the decisive battle of the Civil War for the Confederates?
Feels bad. We had a solid start, and I could have bet money that we would have taken home the victory.
That is right. You started the war strong by winning the Battle of Bull Run and in the bombing of Fort Sumter.
I thought we had it in the bag, but then we got overconfident and left the South underdefended. We ran out of troops, and I knew the war had been decided, so I called a meeting to discuss my surrender today. I hope that the North gives me mercy and will try again to unite the country.
Well, there you have it. Direct account from General Robert E. Lee, former leader of the depleted Confederate Army. Back to you, Cal.
Thanks, Wyatt. We'll keep you up to date on the new reconstruction of the United States of America.
And what it has in store for citizens and the newly freed African Americans. Until next time, this has been a Laker News Network special report. Good night.
Hello, my name is Pacey Paul, and today is May 11th, 1869. We have some big news. The first ever transcontinental railroad was open to the public yesterday. Over to you, LaRue, in Promontory, Utah.
Thanks, Pacey. I'm here at the first ever transcontinental railroad here, and on the scene I have Caleb Crawdad. Why are you here today, Caleb?
My grandma, she's not doing so good.
That's
Took the train out
unfortunate.
to see her. I don't know what she's doing. I don't know what's going on.
You can see your grandma another time, Caleb. But I have a few important questions to ask you. How do you think the railroad will affect people's lives?
Well, I mean, carpooling, they can take the train to their jobs, their everyday lives, their homes.
Reasonable answers.
I think it's a great addition to this country.
Yeah. Let's play a little bit of trivia, Caleb. How long is the first ever transcontinental railroad?
Say about
Wrong! 1,776 miles long. How long did it take to build the first ever transcontinental railroad?
I know this! It's like
Time's
6!
up. 6 years. Who was in the presidency while the first ever transcontinental railroad was being built?
Abraham Lincoln?
Wow, you actually got one. Hi guys, we have our second witness here named Gordon. So, Gordon, do you know anything about the Transcontinental Railroad?
I do. I know a lot about the Transcontinental Railroad. Thank you so much for having me, though, LaRue. I know that you can travel across the country now in 7 days rather than 6 months, and it's a very large technological advancement.
Wow, I didn't even know that. So, Gordon, do you know anything else about the Transcontinental Railroad?
I do. I know that it was called the Pacific Railroad and the Overland Route.
Thanks, Gordon. Back to you, Pasty.
Thanks, LaRue. After this short commercial break, we'll be talking about the new game, jump roping, starting to get very popular.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning into tonight's newscast. I'm Doug, and welcome back to Laker News. We have some breaking news tonight. Today, May 18th, 1896. After a long day in courts, the Plessy versus Ferguson case has concluded. The verdict has people angry. This is causing a huge outrage all over the United States of America. Let's talk to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court right now. Lou is at the Supreme Court with Justice Ferguson now. Over to you,
People are outraged over this verdict. Separate but equal. I have Chief Justice Ferguson with me now. Justice, what made you come to this court decision?
Thanks, Lou, for having me. We believe that segregation is not discrimination. If separate facilities are equal, they do not violate the Constitution. I mean, some of us thought that everyone should be able to use the same facilities, but we decided against that.
Do you really feel this is the best decision for our country?
Yes, I do. We are different types of people, so we should be treated differently. But equal facilities are a must.
Do you really think it's fair for African Americans to be treated so poorly, even if they haven't done anything wrong?
Well, Lou, the court believes that segregation does not violate the 13th and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. And you know, that was a pretty good document.
How do you think you'd react if you were an African American in this position?
Next question.
Is there a reason you won't answer this question?
To be honest, I really don't know what I would think. It's a really tough question.
Were you surprised by the 7-1 court decision in your favor?
I really wasn't surprised because we were just following the Constitution.
Thanks, Ferguson. Back to you, Doug.
Thanks, Ferguson and Lou. This is outrageous that it is legal for African Americans to be treated like that. Well, anyways, that concludes this night's newscast. Be sure to tune in tomorrow night at 7:00 p.m. for Laker News. Good night, everyone. Stay safe, stay smart out there.
Today is April 21st, 1892. Welcome to the Laker News Network. My name is John Hyatt. Today we have new information on the Maine situation. For those who don't know already, 2 months ago the USS Maine was brutally attacked. It was stationed in Spanish-controlled Havana Harbor, Cuba, when a massive explosion tore the ship in half. It then sunk, killing more than 250 sailors. The public is confused and angry. Thanks to other news sources going on a propaganda extravaganza, posters all over the country claim that it was the Spanish's fault for the explosion. Now Congress is voting on whether or not to go to war. If they choose to do so, we'll be at war by the end of the day. Currently, there are riots taking place across the country, but mainly in Washington, D.C., all in support of the war. Right now, we have an on-site reporter at the scene. To you, Jackson.
Thanks, John. I'm here in Washington, D.C., witnessing one of the many protests happening around the country. As you can see behind me is the Capitol building, where Congress is currently voting whether or not to go to war with Spain. People are enraged and rioting all across the country. Does this mean war with Spain? Oh look, here comes a protester right now.
War with Spain! Kill the Spanish!
Excuse me, sir. What's your name?
Oh, my name's Dan.
What do you think of all this?
It's just terrible what happened to those sailors 2 months ago. And now America's looking to start a war.
Why are you here?
I just read the paper this morning, and I wanted to make sure that Congress knows they have the support of the people if we do go to war.
Awesome. Back to you. Hold on. The Congress has just declared war on Spain.
Woo!
Back to you, John.
Jackson. Now that we're officially at war with Spain, there will be lots of news coming in from how the war goes. We'll make sure to keep you updated here at the Laker News Network.
Good evening. I'm Sophia Reed, and this is the Laker News Network. Today is June 23rd, 1906, and the Pure Food and Drug Act was passed today. For many years, citizens have been getting sick from all the expired food, but that's about to change. Now we're going to Sophia, who is on site. Take it away, Sophia.
Thanks, Sophia. Here we are with our first witness, Benjamin. Benjamin is a health inspector for our growing city. How would you describe the conditions at the Meat Co. factory?
I think the factory was absolutely disgusting. It was horrid and revolting. I could not breathe in without getting a throat full of sawdust.
And how would you rate the Meat Co. factory?
I give Meatco Factory an F. There were rats scurrying and excreting their waste all over the meat. I think I am vegetarian now.
Thank you, Benjamin. And here we are with our next witness, Mia. Mia is a worker for Meatco. She has seen the horrors of what gets fed into food firsthand these days. Is it true you put moldy meat in your sausages?
Yes, if meat goes bad, we just put what's salvageable back into our other meats. We call it recycling.
And what do the working conditions look like exactly?
It's not the cleanest facility I've ever worked in, but it's not that bad. Apparently my boss, who nobody has seen lately, is calling me an exterminator. That was months ago.
And what exactly was he supposed to be exterminating?
Just a couple hundred rats. Oh gee whiz, I hope I don't get fired.
Yikes. Back to you, Sophia.
Thank you everyone for tuning in to today's stories about the Pure Food and Drug Act. I'm Sophia Reedon, and this is the Laker News Network.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Debrikashar Frizicano, reporting live from your Laker News Network. Today is Saturday, March 25th, 1911. Breaking news out of New York City. The Ash Building on 2329 Washington Place is engulfed in flames. More to our reporter in the field, Bobby Burst.
Thank you, Debrikashar. I'm currently outside of this devastating catastrophe. We believe that the fires began on the 8th floor at around 4:45 p.m. Ma'am, can you recall your experience as the fire started?
Alright, I'm Secretia Southwest. The fire was worse than you could ever imagine. It all started when... Oh my lord, it's Rihanna, my bestie.
Hey, it's my lord too. Anyway, could you describe how the fire started?
Well, I didn't see exactly who, but somebody threw a cigarette into the waste bin. The fire soon spread to the rest of the fabrics and...
Now, has smoking always been permitted in the building? And if so, do you think there should be more precautions?
Yes, I know some people who smoke more than they sew. I think they should have installed better fire escapes. There are even locks on the exits so we couldn't leave work early.
Now, you seem to be one of the lucky survivors in these circumstances with the poor escapes. Could you describe your escape?
Well, the fire didn't reach the stairs yet, so I was able to reach the lobby before the stairs fell to the flames.
Well, thank you. What a tragedy. Now back to you, Debrikashar.
What a tragedy indeed. Our thoughts and prayers go out to all those immigrant workers. Now to a commercial break.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Laker News Network, and my name is Chris Page. Today is August 4th, 1914. We have breaking news from Belgium that 750,000 German troops have entered into the historically neutral territory. This is a result of Belgium refusing a German ultimatum to pass through their land. Only a few days ago, war broke out between Austria-Hungary and Serbia after nationalists killed Archduke Franz Ferdinand. This event brought in Serbian allies Russia and France and Austrian ally Germany. It is expected that Great Britain will join the war to defend Belgium, but Belgium probably won't last through the month. We will now check in with our field reporter Evan at the Belgian border.
Hello, I'm here today at the Belgian border where German troops have moved further into the land into Belgium. While we believe no Allied troops have met with the Germans, there are several reports of German atrocities in small villages. Allied troops have begun to retreat into France and defend their homeland, setting up defenses such as trenches and forts. Right now, we have the opportunity of interviewing a defected German soldier. Hello, Hans. We heard you deserted the German army after the invasion of Belgium. What are your thoughts on this war?
I feel like there is no real reason for this war, as it is just an attempt for Germany to gain more territory. They do not care about their allies' problems.
Have any of the Allied forces met with the German army?
No, not yet, but they have fought armed Belgian citizens, burning villages along the way. They have plans to batter the major cities with heavy artillery fire until they surrender.
We heard the Allies are retreating to France and building trenches to defend France. Do you think the German army will also do this and create a stalemate?
Well, our Kaiser Wilhelm II promised the war would be over by Christmas, but I don't think it would last that long.
Thank you, Hans. Back to you, Chris.
Good evening. Welcome to the Laker News Network. I am Adolf Hitler, and today, after 4 years of non-stop battle, World War I, Germany is signing the Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles gives them full responsibility for the war and makes them pay $33 billion in war reparations. On the scene, in the depressed, dark, and ruined Germany, we have Ergelbrew. On to you.
I am standing here in the depths of Germany after the Treaty of Versailles was finally signed, ending World War I. The Treaty of Versailles was named after the Versailles Palace in France and is being signed by the Allied powers Britain, France, Italy, and Russia. Germany is also signing the Treaty of Versailles and is paying $33 billion in war reparations, which is being distributed among the Allied powers. On the scene, we have a German resident named Belschnickel. Belschnickel, how do you feel about the countries putting the blame on the war you didn't start?
If Serbian terrorists would have never killed Ferdinand, none of this would ever happen.
Next question. Belschnickel, how do you feel about the entire blame being put on your country?
This is outrageous. The only reason we're being blamed is because we have the most powerful country in the world controlling the Axis powers.
That's not entirely true, Belschnickel. The reason you were blamed for the war is because you were losing too many soldiers and casualties that you were forced to signing the Treaty of Versailles. You didn't have a choice.
Well, that was an interesting interview. I hope everything's okay down there. And hopefully Germany won't elect a vicious dictator and start World War II. But I'm just kidding.
Good evening. My name is Jacob Sweeney, and you're watching the Lakers News Network. Today is October 29th, 1929, and we're bringing you a special broadcast live from Wall Street in New York City. Today, over 16 million stocks have been exchanged. The stock market has crashed, and live from New York City is our reporter, Jonathan Woodruff.
Hello, yes, I'm here live from Wall Street in New York City, and today over 16 million stocks have been exchanged. I'm live with Travis Lloyd, a stocks market expert, and he can explain more on why and how people are selling their stocks.
Yes, people are exchanging their stocks so suddenly because their stocks were worth a high amount of money. Companies lied about their incomes that they had made. People went to exchange their stock, the money wasn't actually there. Some people got their money's worth, but others have lost thousands of dollars and are now in debt. Many banks have run out of money and are now closing.
Thank you, Travis, for your information on the sudden incident. Back to you, James.
Hey, Jonathan, Travis. The government hopes to pass new laws to make sure that this will never happen again, and to end this. Thank you for watching this special broadcast of the Lakers News Network. Till next time, have a great day.
Good evening. This is Bobby Verse, and welcome to the Laker News at 5. Today is March 4th, 1933. Today on this broadcast, we'll be talking about this New Deal introduced by President Roosevelt. We'll also be talking about some of President Roosevelt's personal life and his own thoughts on this New Deal. On the scene, we have Uranus Johnson speaking to President Roosevelt.
Thanks, Bobby, and congratulations, Frank. Now, before we get into your politics, how did it feel to finally walk up the steps of the White House?
It's something I've been wanting to do for some time now.
Now, given your new job title, I'm sure you've been running around like crazy. Are you a busy man, Frank?
Yes, I am quite busy trying to get my staff in order. There are many things I want to get done during this term as president.
Now, we must talk about your politics. One of your major campaign promises was ending the economic depression. Are you ready to jump up and tackle the depression head on?
Yes, that was one of the main goals of my New Deal. I want to start back the banks and get people back to working. I think that we will be able to stop the depression in my term as president of the United States.
Now, as we saw with the previous administration, the president has to overcome many obstacles to be successful, and any failure can be very damaging to public opinion. What obstacles have you had to wheel around?
So I'm trying to take a more friendly approach and involve the government to help everyone. I believe that the previous administration was not doing what is necessary to stop the Depression.
Now, we've talked a lot about your ideas and personal life. However, we haven't fully discussed this New Deal of yours. Mind briefly explaining that to us?
Yes, okay, Uranius. With my New Deal, I'm trying to get people working again with programs such as the Works Progress Administration and the Civil Works Administration. I'm also working to start up the banks and get the economy functioning again. I'm planning on having a bank holiday and raising the prices of agriculture. Thank you for this interview. I hope we can do it again another time.
Thank you, Frank. And back to you, Bobby.
Well, that was certainly interesting. That's all the time we have for today's news broadcast at 5. Feel free to tune into some of President Roosevelt's fireside chats. Thanks for checking in.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Laker News. My name is Sam Jenkins.
And I'm Jim Crawford.
Today's date is December 7th, 1941. Today we have tragic news. Japanese bombers and fighters begin the day for soldiers in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Estimates show that 2,000 soldiers are already dead, and the numbers are expected to rise. Off to you, Jim.
Tragic event indeed. The surprise attack began at 7:48 a.m. and looks like it's not going to stop anytime soon. We have John Smith at the scene reporting live under attack.
Thank you, Jim. I'm here with Jose. We have a few questions we have to ask you. How surprised were you when the attack first came in?
They came out of nowhere. My platoon was one of the first to be attacked. Multiple of my friends are MIA. I just wanted to say, I love you, Mom. Ah, watch out!
Jose, are you alright? Back to you, Jim.
That sure was a close one, John. I hope everyone's all right. We have more information on what type of plane started the attack this morning.
The first planes to show up were the Mitsubishi Zero fighter/bomber plane. It has light armaments and armor, but it makes up for that with its speed, outdogging the American more powerful and armored F-6F Hellcat.
That is one powerful plane. The worst part is that there are also 350 more flying and destroying the naval base. All those planes were delivered in 2 waves, each with 6 aircraft carriers named Agaki, Kaga, Seru, Hiru, Shikaku, and Zikaku.
John Smith is back on the scene with Jack Larson. He has more news on what is happening.
How do you feel about what is happening right now?
I have not seen anything like this before. The planes are destroying the naval base and are sinking multiple ships. I barely had time to get out of my platoon's building before it got bombed. I just hope some of us can stop this thing with our own planes before they destroy the whole island, and that all my friends are okay.
How much damage do you think has already been done?
All 8 of our battleships are damaged, along with 20 of our smaller ships. That's all I know for sure, but there must be at least 250 planes or more that are already destroyed.
Do you know if any Japanese planes have been destroyed?
Well, so far we have been able to shoot down 20 fighter planes, but there are still hundreds more to go.
And just one more question. Why do you think the Japanese would do this to the U.S.?
I think they would do this because they want to take out a fleet of military so that we don't get in their way of conquering the Dutch.
Thank you, Jack. That was very helpful.
Looks like a bad situation.
Yes, indeed. This day will be remembered throughout history because, ladies and gentlemen, the United States has just entered World War II.
Hello and welcome to FFL and FNN. It is February 19th, 1944, and I'm PJ Kennedy with Will Cowden reporting today. Today's top story is the division of the country regarding the controversy surrounding the Japanese Exclusion Act.
The reason for support of this act is fear of the Japanese Americans helping the Japanese in the war effort in the U.S. as spies committing potential espionage.
The reason for the people against this is that they believe American-born Japanese people are American and pose no threat to the safety of the country. This began 2 years ago, February 19th, 1942.
The public's reaction was very mixed. Some supported, some strongly against this.
The Supreme Court decided that Japanese Americans presented a clear and potential threat.
Fred Korematsu took his opinion to court, and it was ruled in the Supreme Court's favor.
It was said he violated the Exclusion Act and was later sent to an internment camp.
We have an on-site reporter at one of the camps who took us into the camp.
My name is Sudachi Citrus.
What happened to you and your family when you discovered the act was passed?
We're dragged out of our lovely San Francisco home and brought out here to camp.
What's inside the camp like?
It is very heavily guarded, like a prison would be.
Do they treat you well in there?
No, they treat us like zoo animals would be treated.
Have they told you how long you're going to be here?
No, they've told us very little information about our stay here, and we're all very scared.
How do they transfer you here?
They transported us here by bus.
Thank you, sir, for the interview. The information will help.
Welcome back. Thank you, Sudachi Citrus. I'm sorry, it was truly a terrible experience, I'm sure.
I agree, truly terrible.
Thank you for tuning in. See you next time on FFL and FNN.
Hi, welcome to Lakers News Network. It is June 6th, 1944. This is Nico Decker reporting from Skinny Alice. Today we are talking about D-Day. 4 days ago, the U.S. soldiers led by Dwight Eisenhower and the Allied forces stormed the beach of Normandy, France. The Germans were occupying Normandy and the U.S. and Allied forces dropped in to get rid of them. With a big force of 150,000 soldiers, they gained a victory, and that was a turning point in the war. Now to you, Ethan.
This is an event we're witnessing live now. I'm with Gracie Brunel, a U.S. soldier in northern France. What happened on D-Day?
U.S. and the Allied force had invaded Normandy, France.
What caused this event?
The Nazis had been punished due to the Treaty of Versailles, and the Germans were overrun. The Nazis were occupying Normandy, France.
Who is the leader of the United States forces during this event?
Dwight Eisenhower.
Who won the Battle of D-Day?
The U.S. and the Allied forces.
What was the date D-Day started?
June 6, 1944.
The codename of this invasion is Operation Overlord. The Germans used anti-tank obstacles, so the soldiers had to rush on foot.
Hi, this is Ella Bobbitt reporting live from the Laker News Network. Today is August 10th, 1945. Over the past 4 days, the United States has bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki with the newly constructed atomic bomb. Hiroshima was bombed on August 6th and Nagasaki was bombed on August 9th. The bomb immediately killed 80,000 people in Hiroshima, 40,000 people in Nagasaki, and the casualty rates are on the rise. This is the first time the atomic bomb has been used in world history, and it has proven to be deadly and destructive. I'll send it over to Catherine on the scene in Hiroshima.
Thanks, Ella. This is Catherine on site reporting at Hiroshima. The bomb just struck, and I'm here today with Maddie Bender, a survivor of the bomb, who was lucky enough to be just out of range. So, Maddie, thank you for being here today, and take us through your initial thoughts of when the bomb was striking.
Well, I was like inside making tea and like doing the dishes, like usual stuff, and then I heard this huge explosion, and I didn't see it, but I heard.
Yeah.
It was awful.
That's insane. Okay. Take us through the atmosphere or what everyone else was doing and how you reacted.
Well, I looked out my window and I saw like everyone running around gathering all their important things and like getting to bomb shelters and everything.
And Harry Truman, what are your thoughts on his decision to drop the bomb, and do you think it was reasonable?
I did not think it was a good idea because a lot of innocent lives were lost in that, and we should have had like peace instead of this huge bomb that hit.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, and I will take it back to Ella on a voice call with President Harry Truman. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. We're now back at Laker News headquarters on a live voice call with President Truman from the Oval Office. So, President Truman, what was your reason behind dropping the atomic bomb?
Well, Ella, my reasoning behind dropping the bomb was that it was costing so many American lives and we could not afford to lose any more.
So, President Truman, now that the bomb is dropped, do you believe it was a good idea to do so?
Yes, we had to stop the Japanese from continuing the war. It had to come to an end somehow.
Very understandable. Now, what are the plans for the future?
Well, as for plans for moving forward, the world should now know that the U.S. is not to be messed with, and I feel this will prevent future wars, and we will continue fighting other wars that break out if needed to do so.
Excellent, President Truman. Thank you, and we appreciate your time with us. That's all we have for today. Stay tuned for more information. And until next time, goodbye.
Hello, I'm Samit Maximus.
And I'm Hassan Marmaduke.
Welcome to the Laker News Network. Today is July 30th, 1953.
Earlier this week, after just over 3 years of fighting, the Korean War has ended.
The UN forces, comprised of 90% American soldiers, successfully repelled both invasions of South Korea by the North Koreans and Chinese.
This success, however, cost the lives of nearly 34,000 American soldiers.
For those who are watching who don't know the conditions of the war, they were bitter and cold in some areas, and warm and moist in others. This made it very hard to fight.
These conditions would end on July 27, 1953, when an armistice was signed between North Korea and South Korea, and a DMZ, or demilitarized zone, was set up near the new border.
However, the border has not changed that much, only barely shifting off the 38th parallel, which was the original border.
Now we see that General MacArthur's opinion would have just further escalated the war.
Communism, once again, fails to beat the power of capitalism.
We now have Forrest Gump interviewing some of the returning veterans.
Are you happy the Korean War is over?
Yes, I'm very happy the war is over.
How many men in your troop died?
Roughly half of us died. One of them was my best friend.
How old was this friend of yours?
He was about to turn 23 years old.
Was survival hard for you in the war?
Yes, it was very hard due to the harsh conditions.
Are you happy the Korean War is over?
Yes, I'm very happy because I can see my family again.
How old were you when you came to Korea?
I was 21 when I came here, and I was very nervous.
Was survival in the war hard for you?
Yes, it was very hard.
Was your mom scared when you were sent to Korea?
Yeah, she was frightened.
And now back to you in the studio.
Thank you for spending some of your time to watch this news broadcast.
This was Samit Maximus and Hassan Marmaduke. Bye-bye.
Breaking news. It's December 6, 1955. Since yesterday, every African American in Montgomery is boycotting the buses and walking everywhere from their homes to work and their kids from home to school. This has been causing a lot of problems for the bus companies. Now on to you, Katie.
Thanks, Piper. My name is Katie Combs, coming to you live from Montgomery, Alabama. We have a special guest here today. This is Kenna Ellis, a Montgomery bus driver. Now, Kenna, what is it like for the bus companies since everyone is boycotting the buses?
Well, we've noticed a difference because we've lost a lot of money and the schedules have gotten messed up because of that.
How did this happen?
It was Rosa Parks. She started it unintentionally. She was on the bus and a white man wanted her seat and she refused to give it up because of how tired she was.
And then she got arrested?
Yes, she did.
Have you noticed a difference in customers since the boycott started?
Yeah, we've lost more than half our daily riders.
Thank you, Kenna. Now we're on our way to Elko Lane, where we have a local Montgomery citizen, Jeff Jellybean. Mr. Jellybean, what is going on here?
Everybody's walking instead of riding the buses.
How do you feel seeing this happen?
Well, I'm glad that they're trying to make a change.
How are the police treating the protesters?
They're attacking them and restraining them for no good reason.
How do you feel about joining the protesters?
I would join them, but they're getting attacked and arrested, and I wouldn't want to be part of that.
Thank you, Jeff Jellybean. These are our eyewitnesses. Back to you, Piper.
Thank you, Katie. Again, this has been today's news on Laker News.
Breaking news. Hi, I'm Susie Griffin. A couple of weeks ago, we informed viewers that the Supreme Court made the final decision with the Brown v. Board of Education ruling that schools can no longer be segregated. Then a group of 9 African American students got together and decided that because of the ruling, they can now enter the all-white school in Little Rock, Arkansas. This morning at 9, a riot broke out between these 9 African American students and the citizens of Little Rock, Arkansas, at the all-white Central High School as the 9 students tried to enter the school. Live at the scene is Karen Wilson with student of Central High School, Deborah Miller.
Hi, I'm Karen Wilson, live at Central High School with student Deborah Miller. Deborah, how did the riot first begin this morning?
When these 9 African American students were trying to get into our school and the people around them were getting real antsy about it.
Do you have any idea why they were reacting like this?
People aren't comfortable with African Americans and how they are invading our all-white society.
How do you feel about the governor disagreeing with the Brown versus Board of Education decision and bringing in guards to prevent the kids from entering the school?
It was scary for not only the African Americans, but for the families witnessing the rioting. My family and I feel that the governor didn't make the right decision towards the African American students' right to enter the school.
Thank you, Deborah. That's all for the moment. Back to you, Susie.
Thank you for watching the Laker News Network. We'll keep you posted on the events occurring in the next couple of weeks with Central High School. I am Susie Griffin, here with the Laker News Network. Ago, a riot between 9 African American students and the white citizens of Little Rock, Arkansas occurred in front of Central High School. Today, September 23rd, we bring you an update that President Eisenhower has ordered the military to escort the 9 African American students into Central High School. Live with student Deborah Miller is Karen Wilson.
Hello again. I'm Karen Wilson, here with student Deborah Miller of Central High School. Deborah, we interviewed you a few weeks past. Have you and your family's opinions on the situation here changed?
No, my family's opinions haven't changed. We feel that President Eisenhower made the right decision bringing in the military to handle this serious situation that has gone on for weeks.
Has school life been different ever since the African Americans tried to enter the school?
All the people I thought I knew are now filled with hate and discriminate against African Americans, which I do not support. African Americans are human beings just like us. They do not deserve to be judged by the color of their skin.
You seem to be very supportive of the African American student rights. Once they attend school, will you be their friend and help them out?
I plan on being the African American students' friend. They seem very nice and are willing to improve their way of life. I admire how both the students and their families had the will to go through all of the hate and discrimination from whites just to go to school at Central High School.
How would you feel if you were one of the 9 African American students trying to attend Central High School?
I would feel very different and unwanted, even though I have the same intelligence and ideas to offer as the whites. Not only would I feel different at school, but all around the community, not drinking from the same water fountain or even eating at the same restaurants.
Thanks, Deborah. I think that's all from Central High School. Back to you, Susie.
Thanks for watching the Laker News Network. Visit our website, lakernewsnetwork.com, to view future updates on the situation occurring at Central High School. I'm Susie Griffin, the face of the Laker News Network.
Welcome to the Laker News Network. I am Molly Nicholson, and today I'm here with Lily Traub. We have breaking news. Sputnik, the Soviet Union satellite, was launched. The Soviet Union might even use Sputnik to launch missiles on the United States.
Some people have even built nuclear bomb shelters just in case of attack or threat.
This is one of the first satellites sent into space. It is circling the globe at about 18,000 miles per hour. This has started a space race between the Soviet Union and the U.S. Let's send it to Bella, who's on site for more information of what happened and reactions from the people.
Hello, I am Bella Schulborn, and we're broadcasting from Garagan Start in Kazakhstan, where Sputnik 1 was recently launched, a very large development in starting the USSR and the U.S. space race. It was launched last week on October 4th. The large sphere is now circling our Earth every second. We have to be prepared for any attacks. And now, back to Lily and Molly for some more information.
Fascinating. Some more about Sputnik. The chief designer was Sergei Korolev, a highly known engineer in the Soviet Union. The satellite is only about the size of a beach ball.
The Soviet Union was even thinking about making it bigger. Now back to Bella's site with the designer of Sputnik.
Hello, and I am here with the chief designer of Sputnik, Sergei Korolev. So what is some information you can tell me about the development of Sputnik?
Well, we originally planned for it to be around 3,000 pounds, but due to economic reasons, the final project ended up being 183.9 pounds.
Wow, so you really did downsize. What brought up the thought of Sputnik?
Well, many officials came to me and asked if I could build something that would be able to get us ahead in the space race against the U.S. Once I got all the restrictions, which between you and me weren't very many, I got straight to work.
So what are some difficulties you went through in the development of Sputnik?
Well, first off, with anything, there's money. We had to put into perspective how much money we would be spending because we had to build the satellite, then we had to think about how and where we were going to launch it.
Thank you for watching Laker News Network.
Stay tuned for more information about Sputnik.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Laker News Network. I'm your news anchor, DeVito Danny, and today's date is October 16th, 1962. Today we have some breaking news for you. It was heard that the Soviets have stored nuclear weapons in Cuba aimed at major U.S. cities. The missiles could kill millions, similar to the atom bombs used by the United States in World War II. Kennedy is yet to publicly respond to these actions, and tensions are rising in the states as threat of nuclear war looms among us. Now we will go to our on-site reporter, Colin Karpinsk in Havana, Cuba.
Thanks, DeVito. I'm here in Cuba where the missiles are being aimed at some of our major U.S. cities. I'm here that someone's part of the crew that's storing the missiles. So tell me, what are you doing with these missiles and why are they aimed at the U.S.?
Well, my country, Cuba, had recently turned communist to get rid of these filthy Americans. They tried to boss us around where they've relaxed on our beaches. The Soviet leader, Khrushchev, asked our leader, Fidel Castro, to put missiles on our land, and we agreed because we're both communist nations.
That's great. We now are receiving new information that President Kennedy is trying to arrange a meeting with the Soviet leaders to remove the missiles. We also received that one of the Soviet ambassadors is coming your way soon. Colin, jump on that as soon as you can.
I'm now come in contact with the Soviet ambassador, Nikolai Tachank. So tell me, sir, what do you intend on doing these missiles and why?
We don't plan on launching these missiles unless completely necessary in order to defend our motherland and win this arms race. We want to protect our country from the nuclear war to preserve communism. We have our goal set on spreading our union and becoming the most powerful country in the world to gain global domination. I will tell you, the Soviet Union will prevail.
So tell me, sir, do you plan on meeting with our president anytime soon?
Well, we intend on meeting with a filthy president, but only time will tell the outcome of the situation at hand. We want to gain more military power for us and the communist allies. One day we will prove that communism is superior. We're not afraid to use our arsenal to prove this.
Well, that's a little bit discomforting. Thank you all for joining us with this coverage of Laker News. We will see you all next time where we will hopefully see the president meet with the Soviets to conclude and figure out this crisis.
It's Anna George from Anchor News. Today is August 28, 1963. We have breaking news from our nation's capital of Washington, D.C. As all of you know, the fight for civil rights in our country is in full swing with the March on Washington. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has led over 200,000 people to the Lincoln Memorial for a peaceful protest against the unjust rights for African Americans. Reporting live from Lincoln Memorial is correspondent Florence Henry to give you the latest scoop on the march.
Thank you, Anna. Florence Henry here, coming at you from the Lincoln Memorial as we look at the 200,000 people protesting with Dr. Martin Luther King. People are crowded all around the reflection pool and even scattered into the trees, as you see here. Here's live footage from Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech that brought the crowd to tears. And as you see, they are overwhelmed with emotion.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Wow, that was just such an amazing speech and so many people there to support him. Now I believe we have an eyewitness with Florence.
Yes, thank you, Anna. Here with me today is Nancy Charles, who participated in the march and personally spoke with Dr. King himself before the speech. We are grateful for her time to speak with us today.
Hi, Florence. It's great to be here today.
It's great to have you here. Now, I believe you spoke with Dr. King himself, correct? Can you tell us how he was feeling before the speech?
He is such an audacious man. He really put himself out there, and I think it really spoke to not only African Americans, but to all who were listening. He allowed the country to see African American cultures, beliefs. He spoke for everyone today.
Agreed. Now, what do you think his next step will be?
I think that this is just the beginning of King's quest to freedom for African Americans, and this is just the beginning of getting everyone help to get equal rights for all.
Well spoken. Thank you, Nancy. I agree. We'll be having live coverage throughout the day. Back to you in New York, Anna.
Thank you, Florence, and thank you, Nancy, for your time. As Florence has said, throughout the day, we'll have live coverage of the March on Washington, and Dr. King has much more to say. So stay tuned in. We'll be right back after the break.
Hi, I'm Gilla, and welcome to Laker News. Today is July 2nd, 1968. We've been dealing with the Tet Offensive for the past couple of months now. It has been a series of surprise attacks by the Viet Cong in Vietnam, of course. We will now hear from our on-site reporter, Rachel, in the home front of New Jersey.
Hello, everyone. I'm here with Caroline Wells, who has a son fighting in this war. So, Caroline, how's your son doing?
I stopped receiving letters and I stopped hearing from his friends too. Then yesterday, 2 officers were standing at my door who notified me of my son's death.
I'm so sorry. Can someone get us a tissue? Thank you. That's truly heartbreaking. It seems like the Tet Offensive really has changed the public opinion about the war.
War is truly an ugly concept, especially the stupid Vietnam War. Why bother fighting it? It's basically a civil war, which isn't our problem to get into.
That's what I've heard from many others as well. So, what did you learn from the letters your son sent you?
My son spent long periods of time in the jungles of Vietnam, trying to find the Viet Cong, but it was hard to identify the enemy because they worked by day and fought by night.
That's an interesting story. Thank you for letting us interview you. Back to you, Yella.
Now we should go to break. After break, we'll speak with a nurse in the war. Here we go to Rachel, now in Vietnam.
Hi, I'm now in Vietnam with one of the nurses who has been here for a couple of months. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Kate Comer. I've been in Vietnam for about 4 months, and all I want is to go home.
Wow. So we interviewed Caroline Wells, who had a son fighting in the war. She thinks this war is not worth fighting. Do you agree?
Yes, young kids are dying left and right. She hasn't even seen the worst of it.
Wow, that's terrible. It must be heartbreaking. Thank you. Back to you, Yella.
Such sad stories. From the sound of it, no one really wants to continue this war. And that is your daily news. Have a good day.
Good morning and welcome to Laker News. Today is August 16th, 1972. I'm Kate Borsey.
And I'm Michael Blowers.
And it has been a week since President Nixon has resigned.
5 FBI and CIA agents have broken into the offices of the Democratic Party.
The 5 men stole secret papers and listened to the phone lines.
Our beloved president that has ended the war in Vietnam, settled the SALT agreement, and has avoided a second Cuban Missile Crisis is allegedly involved in the break-in.
Our president has joined us for an interview on his thoughts about the Watergate scandal. We joined Patrick Hare in the interview today on Laker News.
Here in Washington, D.C., with President Nixon. Is it true, these allegations?
I do not approve.
And explain why 5 men broke into the Democratic headquarters.
I had no knowledge as to what was happening at the time.
What happened after all these tapes? Like, what happened to you?
I had to resign.
And why, why impeach yourself, quote unquote, as you would say?
Because if all the Americans did not trust me, it would impact my reputation.
All right, that sounds good. That's all the time we have for today with you. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you later.
Adios, Americans.
Here with Patrick Hare at Laker News Channel. We're going to explain to you in more depth what the Watergate scandal was and totally about Nixon. So basically, the Watergate scandal was a major political scandal that occurred in the United States during 1972 to 1974, following a break-in by 5 men at the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate complex. This happened on June 17th in 1972. President Richard Nixon, who had been very successful during his recent presidency, was now in a deep hole where people now were very disappointed with what the president had done. The Nixon scandal resulted in the indictment of 70 people with trials or pleas, with 48 being found guilty. Nixon himself then went out on national television and assured to the whole United States that the President Richard Nixon, quote unquote, was not a crook.
Profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I can say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Nixon, although he was a very smart guy, was also very paranoid. Every single conversation Nixon had, he would record them in case he would ever have to use them against someone. One of Nixon's former helpers knew about these, and when Nixon was asked about these, everything went downhill for him. Nixon, under all this pressure, about to be impeached, decided to resign. His vice president then became president and relieved Nixon of all possible charges, and said the country should just move on from the Watergate scandal. Nixon had many great accomplishments throughout his presidency, but it will always be overshadowed by the Watergate scandal.
As you can see, the Watergate scandal was a great political scandal that impacted Nixon's presidency.
That's all for today, here on Laker News.
Good evening, ladies and gents. This is the Laker News Network. I am Elsa Forlind. Today is the day that will live in history. November 9th, 1989, the iconic Berlin Wall has been destroyed. If you aren't familiar with the wall, this is what it looked like at the beginning of the Cold War. The wall was built when the US, Britain, and France went to Berlin to secure their occupation zones. Then the USSR blockaded the western part of Berlin to get them to abandon the city. It did not work. Harry Truman flew surprise over the blockade, so the Westerners would not surrender. Finally, in 1949, the USSR ended the blockade, but since so many East Berliners were fleeing to the West Berlin, the Soviets had to have another approach. Most of the people who escaped were laborers, intellectuals, and skilled professionals, so their loss greatly impacted the economy of Western Germany. We will now go to visit Gunther, who is reporting at the scene.
Thank you, Elsa. Hello, I'm Gunther, and I am here at the scene of the Berlin Wall being torn to the ground. The Berlin Wall was built August 13, 1961, standing for about 28 years before it was destroyed. The wall represented the Cold War and how Khrushchev didn't want anyone to escape communism. After everything was over, the Germans wanted it gone.
Thank you, Gunther. We will now have Gunther meet with someone who was impacted by this important event.
Hello, Gertrude. Is it okay if we ask you a few questions about your life in the Berlin blockade?
Hello? Yes, it is perfectly fine. Oh my goodness, I am so glad it is over. I was trapped in there for what seemed like forever.
What is your earliest memory of the wall?
Well, I remember when I was first young, they fenced in my village and then it turned into this.
Wow. Do you know about how many people escaped before the wall was complete?
Well, it was when I was very young, but I remember that I witnessed about 4 people crawling underneath the fence and running for their lives. But more than 1,000 made it.
Wow. What was life like for your family in the wall?
Well, my family and others too were treated terrible. The people released terrible things like attack dogs and landmines to keep us from escaping. This was my father, Alfred Alvendorf. He was one of the few who escaped because, like other families, we were trapped and separated and never reunited. But they promised I would see him again.
That is terrible. Can you describe the scene when the wall was going up?
Well, of course the wall could not be built overnight. It took many days. But on the night of August 12, 1961, East German soldiers laid down more than 30 miles of barbed wire fences. The heart of Berlin was completely covered. That is when there is no escaping for anyone. I, like the other East Berliners, were forbidden to pass into West Berlin until today.
Thank you so much for doing this interview with us, Gertrude. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
As you can see, Today is a very important day for all the people who were trapped in this terrible wall for so long. We will now report back to Elsa in the studio. I am Gunther Augsburger, and thank you for tuning in.
As you can see, the Berlin Wall being destroyed was a very good moment for the Germans. The some 96 miles of concrete were home to many people for about 20 years, but the wall represented how nobody could be free under communism and how terrible it was for the world. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you tomorrow. Goodbye and good night.